want to not spend money earlier than you have to. And then from that, I went into, I moved from Minnesota to Massachusetts, and then I worked at Hardig Industries, which makes plastic products, a variety of different products. And I worked there as a buyer as well. And they may have a lot of products that they make for the military. So there's like long lead times on products. So it's ordering in advance and keeping track of lead times and estimated demand. And then from there, I went into my current job, which I've been into for about 15 years now, and that's with the town of Longmeadow. And I'm a procurement manager there. And it's quite different than the other types of buying that I've done. But in my current role, basically you have to, each municipality is supposed to have somebody that's certified in public procurement. It's called MCPPO, which is a Massachusetts Certified Public Procurement Official. And what it is all about is basically specializing in all the laws about procurement so that the procurement process is fair and competitive. It gives people equal opportunity to find out about legal notices, advertisements that are posted about procurements, and then establishes rules and best practices to follow to protect the municipality from to make sure that they get the best value and things like that. And with municipal procurement, what a lot of it is, as I said, you have to give public notice, and so there's a lot of specifications that get prepared, and then there's a lot of bidding. You accept bids, sealed bids, and they're opened. Right now, they're opened on Zoom, just like this. So when there's a deadline for a bid, everybody can log in and see me with those bids. I'll say who the bid is from, and it's opened up, and then I give the price. And part of that is to make sure that the process of receiving bids is fair, and that I'm not going to my relative that has a business or things like that. So and then there's also another process. So there's a bid process which has to do with awarding to a low bidder, and then there's also another process called a request for a proposal, also referred to as RFP. That's more for services, specialized services, where you might want to pay a little extra for a service that's by somebody that has better qualifications, like for a consulting firm or something like that.
Excellent. Awesome. Any questions on that so far? Anyone? Please throw them in the chat box. Chad, can you kind of go into what some of your success habits have been over the years that have helped you to get to where you are today?
I would say keeping track of the details. Like for me, I have to, also with procurement, there's a lot of contracts that I have to do for anything that's 10,000 or more. So contracts for procurement involve keeping track of, the pricing, when the contract ends, planning ahead for having a new contract in place before the current contract expires, all the details of, bonding, protecting your investment. So there's a lot of details in contracts. So I have spreadsheets that I have maintained that I created with notice reminders, so I can easily track them. And a lot of things are just learning from experience of things that could be improved the next time and implementing them.
Excellent. I know this is sometimes hard for individuals to identify. Sometimes it's easy. I always find it's sometimes you learn more from your losses than you do from your victories. So the question is, what mistakes have you made along the way that you've learned from and that helped you kind of grow in your professional career?
I would have to say, just basically when you have a mistake to improve on it and keep it in mind so you cannot make that mistake again.
Excellent. What about being a good leader? What do you think some of the most important qualities of being a good leader are?
Just being fair and kind, and in a job like working for the public, just making sure you're following laws and doing the process, taking initiative.
Excellent. What are some of the challenges you think the next generation will face heading into their professional careers?
What was that last part? Challenges with what?
Challenges the next generation will face headed into their professional careers?
Well, in this position, there's a lot of laws to follow, so it's keeping on track of the changes of laws, and there is a association that that meets regularly, so that helps to keep updated about changes in laws, and then you have to maintain certifications, so that's helpful.
Excellent. And if you can kind of go back in time a little bit, what advice would you give yourself at 16? I know that's not too far from where you are right now, but you can kind of dig back down deep.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I was 16, there wasn't internet and all that, so I probably would have been able to research more about careers and, about opportunities. I grew up on a farm in rural Minnesota, and I was the first person in my family to go to college. So for me, it was I didn't know the whole range of things I could do in careers. So I would just say, do a lot of research and, do some investigating online to see what you can find out about careers you're interested in.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Chad from the dais? You need to put them in the chat. Jen, I don't know if they can raise their hands and I can unmute them.
I don't see any in the chat right now.
I do not. Chad, is there anything else in addition that you wanted to add and kind of just focus on from what your current role is, or any suggestions that you have for anyone that's on today?
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit more about like in municipal procurement, some of the things that are involved with that. And there's obviously purchasing of supplies and services for a town and school. And then there's also construction is a big part of municipal procurement. And there's building construction, which could be getting contracts for on-call tradesperson like electricians and plumbers. And then it can be as large as building a high school, which would involve having to do our request for proposal process for an architect, a general contractor to build the project, and then all the different trades. So those are the more complex projects, and the same goes with public works projects like building roads and sidewalks and repairing roads. And so there's a lot of variety in the field.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Then working with the government, having a municipal job has good retirement benefits. That's another thing that's good with working with government.
What do you think some of the benefits beyond just the pension component that would be benefit of working for your municipality or a state entity?
Well, a lot of people I work with, they've been long-term employees. Once they begin working, they continue their work until retirement. So that's nice because you work with people that you know very well. And I work with the town, so it's a smaller group. So it's a nice group of people to work with. And as I mentioned, there's good benefits, retirement.
I think we have a question from Miss Holly's class. Okay.
I would want to know, how busy are you from each day? How many hours do you spend on your work?
The work that I do, I'm obviously full-time, so I work at least 8 hours a day. My busy time of year starts in March and ends about now. So I could work 10, 11-hour days during that time, because what happens is, when school gets out, I do buying for a municipality and the public schools. So when school gets out, there's expectations of getting all their capital projects, their building improvements done, their furnace replacements, and their painting and road construction for the municipalities and sidewalks. That's all seasonal work. So that needs to be bid, earlier in the year. And so there's kind of the workload is kind of heavy during that time. And, during Christmas to a couple months after, there's a little bit of a lull for me, but very busy. It's kind of more project management based, because anything that's especially $50,000 or more is a bid process. So it has to be advertised in newspapers, and then there's specifications that are prepared. And a lot of my bids are like 200 pages. You have to order prevailing wage rates for like construction labor. And then there's contract specifications you have to have in there. You want to have those up front, so
We
you don't
have,
somebody say.
Ed, we have one more question from Ms.
Okay.
Holly's class.
Sure.
I wanted to know how important is math in your job?
For math, it's basically I enter POs that match the contracts, and with a lot of bids, there's it's kind of tiered. Like you can start with a base bid, which is like a minimum amount of things you are able to buy, and usually it's triggered by if you have the money to buy it or not. And if you have more money available, you can buy the other add-on options of a bid. But I do create POs that match what's authorized to purchase, and then those, as invoices come in, that PO gets deducted. So there is math and keeping track of it, and if there's change orders, which means that there is a change in the job, which usually means that there's going to be more money charged, more expense. So then I have to do contract amendments and keep track of that math. So I'm always keeping track of the cost of what a bid or a project costs, because I need to get the authorization to pay for it. And there's always a contract for people to sign to acknowledge that. And if there's nothing signed, then it's not technically legally authorized. So
Awesome.
I keep track of the math.
That's great. Well, Chad, thank you so much. Really
You're
appreciate you taking the time to help get us grab an insight into your profession and how you kind of got to where you are today. So thank you for spending the time on that and answering the great questions that some of the classes answered as well too. So
Great, thank you.
now, you're free to go, and then we have
All right.
a 5-minute recess until at 8:20. We have Thomas Frieger from No Heat Called Tommy. All right.
All right. Well, thank you.